He was the richest man in the world, but his mornings didn't start in a high-tech command center or a boardroom overlooking the city. They started here, in a small, unassuming coffee shop called the Daily Grind, with a simple black coffee and a worn-out notebook. His name was Arthur Vance, a titan of industry, a name whispered with awe in financial circles. But to the few regulars at the cafe, he was just Art, the quiet man in the corner booth. Every morning, for 1 hour from 6 to 7 a.m., he would sit, sip his coffee, and write. No phone, no laptop, just a pen and paper. What was he writing? Business strategies? World-changing ideas? No one knew. It was the best-kept secret in the world of wealth. Across the city, a young, ambitious journalist named Leo was chasing a ghost. His editor had given him an impossible task: get the real story on Arthur Vance. Not the polished PR narrative, but the truth. Everyone knew about Vance's wealth, his sprawling empire, but the man himself was an enigma. Leo had hit dead ends everywhere. He'd spent months digging, interviewing disgruntled ex-employees, and analyzing market trends. All leading to nothing. Frustrated, he decided to change tactics. Instead of looking for the billionaire, he started looking for the man. He traced Vance's life backward, digging into old yearbooks, forgotten local news articles, anything he could find. And then he found it. A tiny mention in a 20-year-old neighborhood newsletter about a young Arthur Vance winning a local poetry slam at a place called the Daily Grind. It was a long shot, a ridiculous, flimsy thread, but it was the only one he had. The next morning, at 5:45 a.m., Leo sat in his car across the street from the cafe. The air was cold, the streetlights casting long shadows. He felt foolish. But then a simple, black sedan pulled up. A man in a plain grey suit got out. It was him. Arthur Vance. He walked into the coffee shop without a single bodyguard. Leo's heart pounded. He grabbed his own notebook, trying to look casual, and followed him inside. The bell above the door jingled softly. Vance ordered a black coffee, nodded to the barista, and took his usual seat in the corner. Leo sat a few tables away, his hands trembling slightly as he ordered a latte he didn't want. He watched as Vance opened his notebook and began to write. The silence was intense. Leo just observed, his journalistic instincts screaming at him to approach, to ask, to interrogate. But something held him back. There was a peacefulness, a focused calm around Vance that felt almost sacred. For the first time, Leo wasn't seeing a billionaire. He was seeing a man engaged in a quiet, personal ritual. Day after day, Leo returned. He became part of the morning scenery. He learned the barista's name was Chloe. He learned the old woman by the window was named Martha, and she always ordered a scone. He and Arthur Vance never spoke, but sometimes their eyes would meet, and Vance would offer a small, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. Leo started bringing his own notebook, too. At first, it was for his investigation, jotting down notes about Vance's routine. But one morning, staring at the blank page, he found himself writing something else. A thought. An idea for a story. Not about a billionaire, but about a lonely man in a coffee shop. The words flowed. He felt a clarity he hadn't experienced in years. The pressure of his career, the chase, it all faded into the background. In that corner of the quiet cafe, he found a piece of himself he thought he'd lost. One morning, nearly a month into his silent surveillance, Leo was writing so intently he didn't notice Vance get up to leave. As Vance passed his table, he paused. Leo looked up, startled. You know, Vance said, his voice softer than Leo had imagined. For a long time, I thought I was the only one. He gestured vaguely toward Leo's notebook. It's a good habit. Helps clear out the noise, doesn't it? Leo was speechless. The news. He managed to stammer. Vance smiled, a genuine, warm smile. All of it. The expectations, the demands, the market reports, the headlines. The world screams at you all day. You have to start the morning by listening to yourself. Otherwise, you'll forget what your own voice sounds like. He then pointed to Leo's notepad. Is that the story you're writing about me? Leo's face flushed. He was caught. Yes, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. I'm a journalist. Vance didn't look angry. He looked amused. I know, he said. Your editor, Frank, is an old friend. He told me he was sending his best man to figure me out. Leo's jaw dropped. This whole time? This entire chase was a setup. But why? Vance's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of contemplation. Because the story everyone wants, the secret to my success, isn't in a spreadsheet. It's not some complex algorithm. It's this. He tapped his own worn notebook, which he was holding. Every morning, I write down one thing I'm grateful for, one person I need to thank, and one small, achievable thing I can do today to make things just a little bit better for someone else. Not for profit. Not for PR. Just because. He continued, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. People think wealth is about accumulation. It's not. It's about flow. You can't just take, you have to give. This, he said, gesturing to the cafe, the act of writing, this is how I remind myself of that. It is how I ground myself in what is real before the world of numbers and projections tries to convince me otherwise. I don't write business plans in here, Leo. I write thank you notes. I write down reminders to call my daughter. I write down the name of an employee who did a good job so I can tell them personally. That's the habit. That's the secret. He looked at Leo's notebook again. So, what kind of story are you going to write now? Leo looked down at his own pages, filled not with investigative notes, but with his own thoughts, his own gratitudes, his own small plans to be better. He realized Vance had given him a story far more valuable than the one he'd been chasing. It wasn't about the secret habit of the world's richest man. It was about a habit that could make any person rich in ways that money can't measure. The next day, Leo's article was published. The headline wasn't what his editor expected. It read, "The richest man in the world." And the morning habit that costs nothing. The story wasn't just about Arthur Vance. It was about a coffee shop, a notebook, and the simple truth that sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is sit down, be quiet, and listen to your own heart. The article went viral, but not for the reasons Leo would have once craved. It didn't expose a secret, it shared one. And that Monday morning, the daily grind was a little more crowded, filled with people holding notebooks, ready to start their day by listening. Thanks for watching.